Today, I'm going to show you my YouTube thumbnail data and also show you how I made the YouTube thumbnail. And I'm also going to be sharing some insights behind the scenes. And this is more of just going to be a following along of the creation process. So YouTube thumbnails are really important, and I actually spend a lot of time on my thumbnails, and for one video I can make anywhere between 2 to 10 thumbnails. I'll often start out with one design and then I'll kind of duplicate an artboard or kind of change it. If I want to change it, I'll basically save the previous version. And I just like doing it this way because it's a lot easier for me. And so today I want to show you how I made this YouTube thumbnail right here. And now for a little bit of backstory behind this thumbnail. So recently I made a few videos about ChatGPT, and let me open up my YouTube channel. As you can see, I posted this video. It performed pretty well. I do want to mention that this thumbnail wasn't 100% my idea because I inspired myself heavily from Igor on the AI Advantage channel. When we've actually spoken about it, we're cool, we're on good terms, but I know some people aren't happy about this. But if you just take a look at the current state of thumbnails at the moment, everyone is copying everyone is doing the same thing because there is a formula that works. So obviously you're going to see some repetitiveness in the thumbnails across YouTube. So as you can see, 8.7% click-through rate. The video is performing pretty well. Sitting at 43,000 views and it's still growing. So I'm going to show you how we made this thumbnail that got the impression click-through rate of 8.7 and is staying at a steady 7, which is pretty good. So this video right here, now in Photoshop. So the first thing you need to understand is that in every thumbnail, you need to have kind of 3 main elements, or you need to start telling a story. Thumbnails with a face just work better. The element in the background obviously is ChatGPT. People that are familiar with ChatGPT will know that this video is about ChatGPT. And then YouTube secrets up here is kind of to build intrigue. And then the red arrow is to draw attention, because these are all things that we know that work, right? And so I've kind of combined all of these elements together, and again, heavily inspired from Igor. So Igor, thank you. Shout out to you for your clever thumbnail. I saw it popping up everywhere all over YouTube, so I just had to recreate it. And I actually wanted to test if copying a working thumbnail works to see the data for myself. And clearly it does. So that is, by the way, one thing that I highly recommend doing is look at some of the top thumbnails in your niche. And obviously don't just copy and paste them, make your own, but inspire yourself from them, because that would be one great way to learn to increase your click-through rate. And if you just study them as well, you'll start to understand what works and what doesn't. So to create this thumbnail, the first thing we're going to do is actually just create a new artboard. You can also go and create a new artboard right here. But I like to just copy it and then I just select everything and I delete it. So I'm just going to rename it right here. YouTube. So the first thing I like to do is I actually record a video with a few different thumbnail faces in it like this. I try a bunch of different ones out, and then from this recording I will then take a bunch of different screenshots. So as you can see, I actually got these few right here. So if we're going to try and remake the exact same one, I'm going to choose this one right here. So I'm just going to drag this into Photoshop. Now, the very first step is to clean up some of this skin. Now, a quick tip, what you can do, and it won't necessarily always work, but if you actually type in neural filters and open up neural filters, here I've probably got a cap on and the finger in front of my mouth, so it won't necessarily detect my face, but here it has. And if I actually hit skin smoothing, here using AI, I can actually just make my skin a lot smoother pretty quickly, which gets rid of some and a lot of the blemishes and like my spots, my acne. And as you can see, it starts to resemble a little bit more of the smoothness, because if I switch it off, it's not a huge difference, but you can see it just looks nicer. And then we can also turn on Smart Portrait, and here you can actually do some pretty cool things, but because I actually have my finger in front of my face, it won't necessarily work. For example, here if I turn up the surprise, sometimes it like makes the face more shocked and the eyes wider, but with the finger in front of my face, I'm pretty sure it's gonna mess up. Yep, as you can see, that looks pretty horrible. So let's turn off Smart Portrait, and we're just going to keep the skin smoothing. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And now what I want to do is actually cut myself out. So here I'm going to choose the quick selection tool. And once I've actually selected it, if I have the picture selected, I can just choose select subject. And then it should automatically select the image for me. Here, as you can see, it's missing a little bit of my t-shirt, and I'm quite the perfectionist, so I'm just gonna add that back in, clean up this little area right here. Then right click, and I'm gonna select and mask, and I'm just gonna make sure I haven't missed any spots. Zoom out, check everything. And as you can see here, we've got a little bit of, because my hat, it's a little bit choppy. So I'm just gonna turn up the smoothness. See how that goes. That fixes it quite a bit. That actually looks pretty good. Then I'm going to turn up the contrast a little bit and maybe just shift the edge a tiny bit inwards just to make sure I don't get any external color or overlay from like the background or the wall, etc. So now I'm just going to hit OK. And then I like to layer via copy and then just hide the background of the image. So now I have actually got my cutout. The next thing I like to do is, because I don't like working with a black background, is actually just creating the background. And so for ChatGPT, it was this nice green color for their like brand, but you can actually make this whatever you want. So I just like to place it as an object, blue, similar to this. I'm going to place it behind myself. Actually, no, we're going to go with the original green. So just like that. Starting to look a little similar. So I like to then place it. And what we can do is actually just start writing out chat GTP secrets. I like using the Proxima font. It's the font they use for Instagram, and it's also on TikTok. And basically, I just think that it's a font that people see quite often. Might turn this one up. You know, familiarity is pretty good for thumbnails. Okay, so I've got that. Then I want to make this white, just like so. Perfect. Okay, so now as you can see, we are actually still looking pretty dull and it just doesn't pop as much as this one. So the next thing you'll notice is that I have actually cleaned this one up a lot more. So for example, I took the logo away from the hat. I made my shirt entirely black. And so this is what we're going to do. But first, I'm just going to get rid of a few more of the last blemishes on my skin. So I can choose the patch tool. For example, there's this little piece of acne right here just under the hat. I circle it and then I can just click and drag and move it away and then it will fix it up. Same here for like some of the skin hair, the beard hair, sorry. I can select it, move away, and then it kind of just makes it look a little bit cleaner. And basically when we make this pop, it's just then going to look a lot nicer. So clean some of these areas, just like so. Down here, maybe on the neck with the beard as well, I can get rid of this. And it's kind of up to you to play around with it and just do what you want. So I think this is looking pretty good. I might then go and do the same thing for the logo up here at the top. Remove this, try and place it somewhere. There we go, like that. Remove these little hairs on the hat. And there you go, it's all black, so that's looking pretty good. And then for the t-shirt, I'm just going to quickly remove this little logo there, place that there. So now it's already looking a lot cleaner, but again, we need to make the colors pop. So how do we do this? Well, we've got this layer selected, so I can change it to face, right? I'm just going to rename it. We can then go to adjustments, and I'm just going to click on curves, okay? And here we actually now have the curve that opens up and I can change it. But all the changes I make then affect the entire thumbnail. So what I want to do is right click and create clipping mask, or I can also hold Option down on Mac between the two and it will create that clipping mask. So now you'll notice all the changes I make only happen to the image that the clipping mask is on. So I'm actually going to bring this down a little bit right there and then turn this up a little bit, just like that. And basically we're doing what we call an S-curve. So it's making some of the darkers dark and then the brighters bright. I'm really not that sure how it works. Google it, loads of great tutorials out there.
This gradient line here is the tonal range of your image. Down here in the bottom left is the darkest shadows, and here in the top right is the brightest highlight.
That's already popping a little bit more. And then again, this is something you can kind of just play around with. Sometimes you want things to really pop, so I can do that. That adds a nice little contrast. And now the hat is nice and dark, but the t-shirt isn't quite dark enough yet. So here what I do is I go back to the quick selection tool. If we hold down, we can change it to the magic wand selection. We can then start clicking and selecting the t-shirt. Hold down shift to get multiple areas, just like so. Playing around with this, making sure I just get some of the details. That's a pretty decent selection of the t-shirt. If you need to, you can play around with the tolerance if it's selecting weird. And then what I'm going to do is right click, select and mask, then it should open up just the t-shirt. And this time what I'm going to do is smoothen it out and then increase the feather by quite a bit. Then I'm going to shift the edge inwards quite a bit. And then I'm just going to click OK. And then we're going to right click, layer via copy. Now it gets in the way of the S-curve. So I'm going to place it above, add the clipping mask back. Now, as you can see, I've got this second t-shirt layer. So what I'm going to do here is go to adjustments, brightness, and then turn the brightness of it all the way down. Remember, create a clipping mask so it affects only that t-shirt part. And as you can see, the t-shirt is now dark as well. And basically our face pops quite a bit. Another thing I've done on this one is I've actually made my eyes pop. And to do that, what we're gonna do is go back to the quick selection tool, and this is like the tool we use basically for almost everything. Go in there, and I'm just going to select my eyes, just like that, okay? And then I might make this a little bit smaller, so we're on 33, let's go down to like 9, so I can get in the little details right here, just like so. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, and then what we're gonna do, right click, layer via copy. Again, this gets in the way, so I'm gonna place it on top. And then for this one, I need to create the clipping mask again. And then for this one, as you can see now, I've got my eyes. So here, what we are going to do is go to adjustments, brightness, and then I can actually turn the brightness all the way up, make sure I create the clipping mask. And now, as you can see, we have changed the brightness of our eyes. And then I can also add a lot of contrast, just like that. And then you've got the eyes that pop quite a bit. So you can turn this down, kind of play around with it. Again, this is all kind of up to you. You can also change the blending mode or reduce the opacity if you still want some of the detailed features to come through. Again, a lot of this is like preference. You've got to play around with it, give it a go. And then what I like to do here, because I'm basically going to move this around, is select everything, and then we're going to group from layers. I'm just going to type in me. And so now if I select this, I Command T, I can actually move myself around and it will keep everything. So I'm just going to place myself right here. And then ChatGPT secrets, we might make this a little bit bigger, just like so. I like to add in blending options, tiny bit of drop shadow, not too much, just so the text pops out a little bit. And then what we can do is from one of the previous ones, I can drag and drop a logo. And that is basically the first variation of my thumbnail. And then what I would go and do is hold down Option and just copy the artboard, okay, and make changes and see how I can improve it. And sometimes you don't improve it. Sometimes you make it worse, but then at least you've still got the first version. So you could either then elaborate further on this one by copying it again, or you could go back to this one and then start a completely different design path for your thumbnail. So to show you an example, this one, I had the idea of holding the script. I wanted to show the perfect script. And I was like, no, get rid of it, go back to this one. So I was like, okay, I need something completely different. So I went up to this one right here, and then this one right here, and this one right here. And every time it almost saves it as a checkpoint. And it's the same for this one. The first thumbnail here was this one on the top right. And then I thought, not too sure about it. So I got this one on the bottom, just below it. And then again, onto this one, to this one, to this one. So as you can see, it's a whole process of making thumbnails. I'm a big fan of this one, by the way. I think that's pretty cool. What you want to do is try and have 3 main elements, make your face pop in it, add emotion and add intrigue, and your story starts with the thumbnail. Imagine the thumbnail or see the thumbnail as the hook to your video. It's like the pre-hook, right? People have expectations based solely on the thumbnail. So try and make sure that your video matches your thumbnail and your thumbnail matches your video. And this is why often it's a good idea to make thumbnails first. But also, once you've made it first and you make changes and your video kind of turns out different than you imagined, adjust your thumbnail accordingly. And that is how I use Photoshop to make my thumbnails and my thumbnail faces. Shout out to Igor for his creative thumbnail ideas. He makes some great videos about ChatGPT. So link to his channel in the description down below, and everything else, find me on Twitter, all of that in the description. Thanks for watching. Peace out.